Hello everyone, beautiful Tuesday morning in Lagos. The holiday is officially over, at least for most people. Well, just a few others might still be at home enjoying an extended version of the holiday. And that's the case with politics. That's if we ever had a political vacation over the Yuletide. We're turning our attention now to some of the developments in 2022 as we begin to count down to the big one next year. They say this is the most active pre-election year, and we're looking forward to quite a number of things coming up. For instance, the Vanguard reported late last year about anxiety in the Independent National Electoral Commission over the exit of certain commissioners believed to have a background in civil society and even proven integrity in previous elections. We're also going to look at the issue of National Convention within the APC, as well as other developing matters, particularly with the Electoral Amendment Act bill. I'm joined this morning by journalist Emeka Madunagu. Happy New Year, and thank you for finding time to come.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
All right, so yes, let's begin with a reported concern from INEC sources saying that we're losing credible officials, and think they are concerned about the fact that there are some resident electoral commissioners that did well in previous elections and were expected to have been promoted, to become national commissioners. But then there is an appointment of new set of people. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, well, it's something to worry about because INEC, by virtue of its name, it's supposed to be independent, and the presumption around what arises from the issues raised in that report is that there are, that INEC isn't totally insulated from external interference. Yeah, many Nigerians will say, yes, that is the case. But you see, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. And it's expected that an institution like INEC should be above board like Caesar's wife. It should not, there shouldn't be any question about its integrity, because its activities revolve around things that affect the livelihoods of Nigerians. So, in this case, we're talking about electioneering. If there is any scintilla of doubt about INEC's integrity, then all the work it's doing is null and void. It's a disaster. In fact, it is against the Constitution, it is against the Electoral Act, against the people of Nigeria. So, the fact that, yes, there have been people who have really upheld the integrity of INEC, it is salutary, it is laudable, it is commendable. I mean, it is good for institutions, to be built rather than individuals.
Exactly.
So it is good that there are, but for institutions to be built, there must be courageous, forthright, honest, and diligent, fearless individuals within those institutions who will insist on due process.
But why is this concern important? Because the individuals named in that report, about 4 or 5 of them, are people who came through the same process, appointed, I believe, by the president and confirmed by the National Assembly. Why is there an exception if these individuals who are considered to have done well in previous elections were appointed through the same process? Why are we doubting the same process?
Of course, there are instances of INEC officials, senior INEC officials, whose conduct has been anything but, commendable. In the past, in a recent democratic experience, the Fourth Republic, there are INEC officials who have placed themselves more at the disposal of external forces than in the interest of the Nigerian people. Of course, there was a case, I won't mention the state, but concerning, a senatorial seat. And the judge had to ask INEC, that how come you seem to be more interested in defending one of the parties, as in your presentation, your conduct, the exhibition, the zeal by your officials, does not show that you are here to defend INEC. It's as if you are here in INEC regalia to defend one of the parties, and that is, that stands condemnable. That stands to be condemned. So when you put that side by side with other such instances, many instances, electoral officials disappearing with result sheets, ballot, there have been allegations of thumb printing right inside offices where ballots are supposed were being kept and counted.
But what do you consider the president's body language in all of this? Because last year he had nominated someone as a national commissioner, and she was turned down by the Senate.
Yes.
And we saw him replace that individual in his appointments.
No, you see, you cannot hold the president totally responsible for everything, because the president has advisors, he has ministers, and there were people who presented the names of these nominees and said they were individuals, found worthy in character, and with backgrounds that would, fit into such roles at INEC. So, if anybody was rejected, it was because there was public outrage, there was a public outcry against the antecedents of such a person. That such a person, who had been at the disposal, of a certain political party, very clearly, now trying to rewrite history, now trying to tell us that, the things that are really clear before us are not, what they are. But of course, the president in his wisdom now, listened to, advice and dropped that nominee. Then, of course, brought in some other people. But you see, like what I said in the beginning, I expect that INEC should take this report very seriously, because it is a strong indictment on his integrity. INEC in recent times has shown some promise that, perhaps it has woken up, to realize that, we have a historical duty to this nation to ensure free, fair, and credible elections. So we should not by any means allow our integrity to be tainted. So what does that mean? Make sure it's not just about the president nominating these people. In fact, if you recall when President Goodluck Jonathan at that time met with Jega, he said, we appointed Jega as the election. He said, we never met before. I don't know you. I never met you before. So that's what it ought to be.
A few reactions have trailed some of the appointments made in, INEC recently. For instance, a headline here says, Igbo Group wants INEC commissioner picked from Enugu and Ebonyi. Southeast Group faults Buhari's INEC commissioners nominees. This continues to be the case. The question of where do they come from? How does that fit into, of course, on one hand is fair representation across board, but how, when you now trickle it down to zoning, geopolitical zones and all of that, how does that impact really on the integrity of the process?
Yeah, of course, the basis of federal character is to ensure that appointments are evenly spread across. Of course, the Constitution says that the president must appoint a minister from each of the 36 states. So that is a given. But it's in terms of appointments to boards of parastatals, agencies, and all of that. Appointments of permanent secretaries and all of that. There ought to be that even spread, so that there won't be any misgiving, there won't be any feeling of exclusion, which has been our experience over the years, even especially under this administration. It's been something of concern. So, but you see, politicians will always be politicians. And politics is what? It's about interest. So these politicians have only come out to say, okay, this is our interest. And of course, they are not addressing INEC. They are not addressing the INEC chairman. It's to Mr. President and to the National Assembly to say, all right, we believe that certain states have been left out in certain appointments in INEC, and that we feel for fair representation, is only proper for these states to be represented in INEC. Yes, but that shouldn't in any way make INEC not to live up to its responsibility. INEC officials ought to know that they should never be heard that, one, they are coveting politicians, two, they are trying to undermine the electoral process, three, that they are bringing their own interests, whether religious, ethnic, or family interests, into any aspect of their duties. They should just do their duties, conduct elections, and make sure they prevent underage voting, they prevent the snatching of ballot boxes, they ensure that the voter register is clean, that names of dead people are not smuggled into the voter register, and every other duty assigned to them in the Electoral Act.
Absolutely. So a lot is happening right now. INEC is just a single stakeholder. The political parties are also getting ready for a showdown ahead 2023. Just yesterday, the Director General of the Progressive Governors Forum warned against the postponement of the National Convention of the APC billed for next month. And according to him, he's saying that the body language is becoming clear that the caretaker committee might want to extend its tenure and even postpone the election of working members in that regard. But this is a fallout of a letter written sometime last year by Senator Orji Uzor-Kalu, who was canvassing that it should be a simultaneous event combining both the presidential primary and election of National Working Committee.
Well, like I said earlier, politics is about interest. The APC, to all intents and purposes, as it is right now, cannot, in all honesty, conduct a national convention.
How do you mean?
Because in a situation where you have crisis in over 17 states, who are you going to, for instance? I mean, listen to. When a state appears with 3 factions, 2 factions, 3 factions, which of the factions are you going to listen to? Which candidate, from which faction are you going to pick candidates? You even see states where governors are actually almost being sidelined. I mean, governors who in our democracy have been taken like, okay, the leaders of the party in their states, are actually being pushed to the side, to the sidelines, And so, where you have such a scenario, are you now going to keep the governor out and deny him and other members of the party the right to participate in the processes leading to a new national executive? That would be most unfair. That would be undemocratic. That would be an affront on the very ethos of democracy and rule of law. So, to all intents and purposes, the APC convention cannot really hold by February. The party must put its house in order. The party must step up its reconciliation machinery and make sure that it accommodates disparate views so that members will feel a sense of belonging. But if you say, okay, we're going to move forward to and foist a fait accompli on the people, you will just end up conducting an exercise in futility.
Prior to the talk of the National Convention last year was the issue of rotational presidency, and we saw it would appear that the opposition party, the PDP, seemed to have taken a stance on that. Is that a stance also? Is there a known stance also with the opposition party, and how important do you think that is vis-a-vis quality leadership ahead 2023?
Well, that's a very interesting thing. Rotational presidency is only fair. You'll be hearing me talking about fairness since this program started. Basically, this is very important that we not only achieve rotational presidency, we also rotate the rotational geographical in the basis of geography, but also on the basis of age, youthfulness. Let's rotate these things to the youth. Let's rotate this part to the youths, to much younger people.
By youth, how are you talking about? Because it's a very confusing concept.
I'm talking about going down below 50s, under 50s, going down. And of course, we saw in previous elections, we saw that there were a lot of young people who came out. But so far, it's only one person that's come out in that category, and that's Yahya Bello of Kogi State. And he has come out to say, I represent the youth, and I'm going to come out. I have positive antecedents, and I represent the youth. And what Nigerians want, what the youth can present to the people. So, you see, if such a person can be courageous to come out to say, move this thing, not just on the basis of geography, from north to south, or say, okay, the south has held it for so and so time, let the north continue till so and so year. But he has gone beyond that to say, no. Look at the youth. They form a chunk, a large proportion, a large portion of the population, the voting population, the national population. They are. You heard last week when the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, was saying that ICT had been steadily overtaking petroleum as the nation's, main revenue earner. And who are the drivers of this ICT? The youth. So you've got to really focus.
I understand your sentiment along youthful lines, but what are its chances along, rotational lines? Because you heard the governor say last year that the presidency should come to the south.
Well, let me tell you something. You see, in politics, it's about interests, this way and that way. If you look at President Buhari, ran how many times? But at the end of the day, there were shifts, tectonic shifts, and people said, okay, no, let's move it to President Buhari, even though President Goodluck Jonathan has spent just one term. And there were strong sentiments that said, okay, no, let's allow him go for a second term. But it rotated, it moved again. So now, we are now just going beyond geography. Like I said, we're going beyond geography. We're looking at the population. Because Nigerian youth are coming up. If you keep bringing the same old people, you keep recycling the same old people, what are you going to have?
Does it matter how old the president is?
It's very important.
I mean, the person who took over from Trump is even older than him.
Well, America, how many years? Over 200 years. An established democracy, established institutions. But you see that so many things are changing now. The way things are going, a lot of things are changing. And the youth are main drivers of this change in different sectors. So, you see, if you're talking about that, what about Peru? Chile, that just got a president of 36 years. After a long reign of oppressors, old men who really oppressed the people, who suppressed the people, you now have a very young president. And in a number of nations, you have that, move to that youthful demography. So that you have people who have the energy, who will be there to run the nation, not people who will be constantly shuttling between Abuja and foreign hospitals.
People take up leadership in our history as a nation. I think Yakubu Gowon at the time was below 40 when he was. Do you think it's going to be different under a democratic setting, or it is exactly what we got that time that we were seeking for?
Why not? Democracy, that was military rule. But even under the First Republic, we had young people. We had the people who ushered in democracy. How old were they? They were young. They were young people, So what is important now is that our democracy must recognize all segments of the economy. And if there is somebody who has, encouraged youth participation, being gender sensitive, and done things, education and other things, security and other things, to show that, listen, I understand the problems of Nigeria, and I can take on these problems headlong. Why won't you consider such a person?
Beyond the age, religious, and geographical affiliation, what kind of person do you really think we need as a president in 2023?
First of all, we need a healthy individual who is on ground, with boots on the ground. Someone who is articulate enough to, listen to his ministers, listen to his advisors, but who is also able to be clear about where he stands and be clear on national issues. Because Nigeria, we have different interests. So you have to be sensitive enough to ensure that in your appointments, in your policies, in the way you conduct issues, you don't exclude one region. Look at what is happening in the Southeast, arising from that feeling of exclusion. You understand? So you don't allow these things to fester to the point that you now have to begin to use military force and all of that. You play your politics in such a way that you also carry the youths along. So many youths are left out, unemployed and all that. Why? When we have so many needs in the country where, you can create, blue oceans, you can create seas of opportunity and feed the youth into them. Such responsibility, onerous responsibility that, is facing the presidency right now requires somebody who knows what it entails and who is ready for the job.
With age, they say, comes experience,
yes,
and also the ability to, listen to others and accommodate different perspectives. The fear with trusting, a country like Nigeria to a younger person comes with the track record of, not having enough patience to listen to every point of view.
Are you saying
is that a concern?
Are you saying that youths are rascals?
No. It is what people say. It is what they have sold to us in time past. It is also the expectation that comes with, the personality, the presidential personality.
You see, we must not try to be unfair to the youths because of that boundless energy. We must not try to turn boundless energy upside down and say, okay, the youths are patient, youths are in a hurry. No, the point is this: have you entrusted them with leadership and they failed? How far have you put them into position? How many of them have you put into positions of authority today? Check it. How many have you put into positions of authority? How many of them how much have you said, okay, youths, this is what you should do. These are the challenges we have as a nation. Oh yeah, come and take the lead. Have you done that? But we complain that, the quality of leadership is low. And yet we want to bring in recycled old tired legs, tired old men and women. We must make up our minds. We're in the 21st century. So many things are going to change between now and 2050, which is just how many years away from now? Maybe 28 years from now. A lot of things are going to change. So if you are bringing people with the mindset, of the 50s, 60s, 70s to come and run in Nigeria in the 21st century, you are just going to keep the country on a barber's chair, just keep rotating and not going anywhere. So the answer is, let the youth take it up in 2023.
And I'm joined now by Barrister Tunde Kolawole. Thank you so much for finding time to come.
Thanks for having me.
Happy New Year. I was just saying that you're looking younger by the day. Just before you came in, we were talking about he was canvassing for a more youthful participation in leadership. I look at both of you, you're already growing gay. I don't need a prophet to tell me that. I don't need the prophet to tell me that I'm the youngest in this party. The question is,
and we are potential candidates for the mortuary.
Yeah, no. That's what I meant anyways. But what I mean is that
the true life expectancy in Nigeria is below 50. But we're already above 50.
Are old people ready to give younger people a chance? On one side. On the other side is, are younger people ready? Because he was talking about the APC National Convention, and a few weeks ago there were these young people who came up and said, give us a young person as a national chairman. That's already selling out that spot and said, let us reserve the presidency to older people. How do you react to that?
Well, let me quickly say that when you take a cursory look at history, I haven't found anywhere in the world where people have privileges such as politicians do have, whether they are young or they are old, and they willingly concede or give out or dash out or put a la carte on the plate of other persons the privileges and power and wealth that politics attracts. You virtually would have to contest for it. You virtually would have to struggle, both the old and the young. You virtually have to struggle for power. And then in the contention of forces, it is the balance of power. Whoever could muster the most effective force and overpower the other party in terms of his political prowess, in terms of the financial resources behind him, in terms of acceptability by the people and all that, is likely to be at the end of the get power. The other issue is that when you also look at Nigeria, our situation defies logic. You really can't predict it. Most of the so-called people, most of the young people now who are asking for power and what have you, you take a look at the antecedent. In what way are they better than the younger people? Virtually, some of them would, when they get power, or those who have gotten power, have shown themselves to be worse than even these old people. And all that. Why do I say this? When, I'm sorry, permit me the indulgence of, we had a former Senate president who did his school abroad, and he is of the best, British tradition, and what have in terms of education, in terms of politics and everything and all that. And he was Senate president for 8 years and all that. Did he behave differently from when the older people were Senate president? In fact, we had a more acrimonious relationship between the executive and the legislator during that kind of, during that man's stewardship. Also look at Mr. Ayodele Fayose, look at Yaya Bello and all that. In what way have they played politics differently from the way the old and younger, the older people have played it? In fact, in my humble opinion, they have been a worse replica or worse representative of what we call usefulness. But again, in science, when you look at most of the people who have had very decisive impacts in society, in literature, in science, and what have you, they have always been below the age of 40, 35 bracket. Albert Einstein, when he came with his atomic bomb that won the World War for America, and the rest of the power was below 35. When you look at even our own Chino Achebe, all the Magna Opus, the big books, the most renowned books that he has written, were written below the age of 30 and 35. The same thing Wole Soyinka. All that they are doing now is a kind of an anticlimax of what they used to do. And then youthfulness gives you some drive, it gives you some energy, it gives you some capacity that age tends to distract from you. Immediately you become old, you are more circumspect, you are more reticent, you contemplate issues for too long a time, even when you require to take a decisive action and what have you. And so because of that, you find out these days, it's neither the age nor the how old you are or whatever that will determine your capacity to really deliver good governance, to really deliver the development of democracy, to really be able to do good for the largest number of people that might exist in society. And that is the reason you find that most institutions today, most societies today are emphasizing on institutions. That individual will come in of those institutions and go out. If the institution is strong, if the parameters are very, very strong, if we have enough yardstick, we have rules and regulations, precedent, customs and peer review mechanism and all that, you are likely to get more from the system than just zeroing in on age or whether somebody is 70 or 30.
We're going to leave the conversation of whether or not the individuals Barrister Kolawole, have mentioned, have performed or not.
I've wanted to look into that.
But I'd like us to just...
Saraki was not in the youth bracket when he became Senate president. He's 59. He's 59 this year. He was 59 last year.
He started as an advisor to President
No. You were talking about his acrimonious relationship with President.
He started as an advisor to President Obasanjo at a very, very young age.
No. You mentioned the Senate.
Fayose was in.
When you talk about Fayose, the jury, it's still open.
Yaya Bello.
Respectful, that is your view. Even Yaya Bello, that is your own view, because the point is this: on what basis are you actually saying that they did not, that they don't fit into that demographic of youth that are capable of running the country? These views are subjective, because have you sat down to look at what they've done for their states and the challenges facing them? What was available to them? When Fayose was fighting open grazing, people were laughing at him. But what have you had today? So many states have passed laws banning open grazing. And so look at it. So it's the same thing now. People will say, oh, you have this, but down the line, you will see that a man running a state, that shares boundary with 10 states and FCT, people moving through the state, and you don't find issue. You've not heard of bandits going to grab school children. You've not heard of all the things you hear in Katsina, Sokoto, and all that, going to markets to kill people, to set people ablaze in buses. You don't see those things. Why? Because of proper management of security and all of those things.
It's 2023.
If I may interject.
Yes.
You see, I would be happier if we have a standard parameter for measuring leadership and achievement, why do I say this? When you talk about insecurity and somebody fighting banditry or the Fulani Asme and all that, will that be seen or said to be something really worth the while or something really to measure the quality of leadership? My answer is no. I would rather want to look at food security. I want to look at the quality of education.
Unfortunately, that has become
yes, of course.
I want to look at
yes.
in Nigeria.
Yes,
I want to look at
security is very important.
You had the information minister.
If you look at some of these indices,
if you
look at some of the if I look at some of the indices of what I have said, how many of those people or the fires that you are mentioning, what is his achievement? When you put it on the scale, that parameter.
So I'd like us to take,
very important.
You know, we can keep dragging this, but I'd like us to take a step further too. Okay. Because I want us to talk about quite a number of other things. Okay. What, in your opinion, would be the biggest strategy for younger people in 2023? Because it's looking very gloomy from where I sit right now.
Why do you say it's looking gloomy? Yes,
because I've heard younger people in the APC asking that the chairmanship of the party be given to someone younger.
You see?
You know what that means?
You talked about the strategy.
Yes.
And the strategy includes being able to articulate what the problems of Nigeria are. You know, the person who will be the next APC national chairman should be able to understand how to run an all-inclusive party. Not somebody like Adams Oshomole, you know, who was talking down even on governors, elected by the people. You understand what I'm talking about? You know, you need a chairman who is young enough, who is temperate, who is able to look at situations and say and interpret the mood and know how to reach out to the people. And then for a youthful president, the strategy is that things are changing and you are able to bring in young, vibrant people, young men, young women, you're able to take on serious challenges. You know, the learned Isaiah has said that security is not important, but a situation where bandits will invade the market and kill over 100 people, set 40 people ablaze in a bus. But this has not happened in Kogi State. Is that not what's celebrating? You talk about food security, go and investigate. You talk about other things, go and investigate. We cannot just sit down and, you know, take subjective views, you know, as a global view. We must give,
it will also matter when you talk about the national chairmanship. It will matter where the chairman comes, because the politics of the parties now is that the president wouldn't come from, you know, would have to come from another geopolitical zone apart from the national.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes. I said it earlier. I said we need to set, like he said, you know, parameters for leadership. And one of the parameters is that we need to now begin to, you know, do away with those things that divide us and look at the critical issues. We need people, you know, who are hands-on. We need leaders who are hands-on, who are ready to take on challenges at any time of the day, who have antecedents, who have, you know, been proven to have been able to deal with existing national challenges. You talk about food security. In many states today, in the north, people cannot go to the farms. But that's not the case in Kogi. I'm
thinking that the way to drive this conversation forward is to let out the names. Let us focus on the leadership parameters that you talked about. Okay. So let us forget about whoever it is that is running or who has a presidential ambition or what they have done in the past. But let us look at what should Nigerians be looking forward to in the kind of president they should consider for president next year.
Thank you, Nifemi. That's a very, very beautiful question. I am, with due respect, I like to describe myself as a pan-Nigerian. I don't believe in all this tribe, religion, or where anybody come from. I've always believed that we should always put our best foot forward. The most brilliant, the most successful in terms of running institutions, the most detribalized, the most who doesn't care what your religion or what your color is and all that. Or be that as it may and all that. When you want to get to that position and all that, the parameter I will want to see is somebody. I have noticed that religion is a very huge problem in Nigeria. Anybody who doesn't believe in the secularity of the Nigerian nation should never be allowed to become a leader in this country. Because all these bandits, all these Boko Haram and all those things that you are seeing, all these things are self-inflicted injuries. Simply because Nigeria has been promoting religion when it should be a secular state. You find even a state will budget for 100 mosques to be built in a particular year. Certain persons will never give licenses or CFO to churches to build a mosque in their exactly, and sponsoring pilgrimages and other. And then you also find a situation in which people are still being arrested, prosecuted, and killed for blasphemy and what have you. So long as you continue to have that kind of a challenge, and you have a president or a leader, whether as a party leader or as president or as a governor and all that, who still has those primordial sentiments about religion and what have you, that kind of a person will never be able to move the nation forward.
Absolutely.
The second one is that when you look around the world today, the age bracket of leaders who are moving the society forward in terms of science, in terms of invention, in terms of creativity and all that, most of them have, are below the age of 40. Elon Musk is there, a very good example. Zuckerberg in Facebook. Look at Emmanuel Macron, the youngest president
of Chile.
The president
36.
of Chile. Exactly, and all that. They are well educated, they are cosmopolitan. They also see the direction in which the world is moving. They also know that exactly education and science is a bedrock of development in society. Exactly.
You see, the older generation by Twitter.
So it's people who have that kind of a mindset that are likely to be able to move the nation forward. More importantly, and I'm going to emphasize this, we are overbeating this issue of democracy. I have also taken a close look at history. I haven't seen anywhere in the world that democracy has developed. Go and check. Democracy has never developed any country of the world. America was developed with slave labor, and then you have Britain that went on brigandage, colonizing other people and robbing them of their material resources and what have you. Till date. And all that. And you have a Russia that captured and colonized all the satellite countries of the world, and they were exploiting their resources and what have you.
Yes.
So if that is the case and all that, then you must begin to move away from that kind of direction. In fact, these days, I tend to believe in what we call democratic humanism. And what do I mean by democratic humanism? I want us to see a zero-party system in this country. And what we are going to be having is we will have the executive structure, we will have the National Assembly, we will also have the so-called National Assembly and all that. But every segment of the society is going to be represented in there. The market women, the army, the police and whatever. In a short form, I call it a kind of Nigerian People's Congress. It's going to be a Nigerian People's Congress in which even the student, the army and all that are going to be represented. If you maybe rise to the level of a chief of army staff or chief of defense staffs and all that, maybe that might be a parameter to be represented, maybe to go into the National Assembly and speak for the army. If you become the IG of police, maybe that could be. If you become the leader of the market women, another, maybe if you become the non-president, National Assembly of Nigeria, so that when issues that concern this society, how much resources that the society has at its hand, how it is going to be expended, and the direction in which it's going to be expended, everybody with experience and who is coming from all these diverse backgrounds will be there to speak for the constituency and make contributions, even provide a blueprint as regards what their different constituencies need. So long as you continue to play this democracy, which is very, very decisive and divisive, which is very, very expensive, which has never taken any nation forward. China isn't a democracy. Turkey isn't a democracy. I'm not saying I'm calling for autocracy or totalitarianism and what have you. But they are moving forward.
That's talking about long time. I mean, these are
they are in long time. If we were serious as a nation, because the nation could be described as almost bankrupt, we should be cutting down on all these expenses and closing all the loopholes and all the things that tend to tear us apart. These are the areas in which we should be looking at.
We're going to open the phone lines in a short while to get a few contributions from our viewers. But I'd like us to also talk about the issue of track record. So we've had situations in this country where when it's election year, we're focused on what the problem is. For instance, as we speak now, insecurity is a major issue. And then everybody would perhaps be thinking, okay, who's that person who's going to solve this one problem? But the problems are hydra-headed, and we need a complete leadership in a complete person who has a track record of providing leadership. What are these track records that you think that the electorate should pay attention to in the selection?
You have to look at track record of, inclusiveness. How inclusive has that person been? Accommodating youth, accommodating women, accommodating different ethnic groups, accommodating different religions, accommodating different professions, Then you have to look at insecurity. What templates, how was this person able to develop a template such that, management of security is proactive rather than reactive in such a way that you've brought insecurity to the barest minimum. There always be opportunistic criminals who just want to hit and run. But they won't now be like the, bandits, warlords, kingpins in some states, who sit down and write letters to the people that you must drop so and so amount. That you have to look at the track record. Is there somebody who has been able to dismantle all these things, dismantle all these, criminal frameworks? There is. Now, you go on to education, you go on to health, you go on to food security, you go on to other areas. Now, I've already made a case, But now, let me tell you something. Just like what Barrister said, moving to that futuristic idea, which some people will say is totally utopia, you need to first of all make a transition from the older generation to the younger generation with a new set of ideas. If you look at even the curriculum, the school curriculum has changed. A lot of things have changed about our education. A lot of things have changed about the way we do things. There was a time in this country there was only one TV station, but today, broadcasting has been democratized. The media has been democratized. A lot of changes have happened. So what we need is this. The problems may be hydra-headed, but you must be able to look out for, people who have demonstrated the clear vision, the ability, and the courage to take on this. It's not easy to take on criminals. So it's not easy to take on criminals and make sure that your state is free for people to move through. If you remember, there was a time the Inspector General of Police warned that that a portion of Boko Haram had broken out and called itself Ansaro. They moved down to Kogi State and attacked a convoy of military officers, kidnapping and all of that. But somebody came and put that in the past. So that is a track record.
So let's take a look at the Electoral Act amendment for a bit. We listened to a group of political parties yesterday, about 18 of them, saying that Nigeria isn't ripe for direct primaries, and that has been perhaps the biggest problem to having this particular bill enjoying Mr. President's assent. Some are saying, well, remove it and retransmit it to Mr. President. Are you concerned that we might be entering 2023 without an upgraded version of the Electoral Act?
Well, Nifemi, I would answer your question, but before I do that, let me quickly say that Nigeria's problem is not hydra-headed. Nigeria's problem can be solved within 1 year if you have the political will.
It was the same thing.
Which is the same thing.
It was the same thing. It was the same thing. Barrister, it was the same thing the former governor said, though, that we can solve the power problem within 6 months.
But he denied it. He denied it.
Yes, but he never had the expertise when he was talking about that. It is what we heard
that he said.
So let me now go to your question about the Electoral Act and all that. In fairness to Mr. President, I would want to say that I don't agree that the National Assembly should have included the direct primaries in the Electoral Act. Why do I say this? All the parties have their respective constitution in which it is prescribed in there either direct primary, either indirect primary, or delegate system, or even affirmation on the
consensus.
Consensus, as it were. It is not on every issue that we legislate at. I have discovered in this country, each time we have a little problem somewhere, the next thing we are thinking about is to really make a legislation or make a law. And laws don't solve all problems. No. Go and check most places. Do you know peer review mechanism could even be more effective than all this legislation that we are making? In a place like America or in Britain and all that, a legislator was said to have, in America, he took the picture, a nude picture of his private part and sent to a young girl and all that. Immediately that was made public on the internet. All his colleagues in the in the House of Rep or whatever, Senate in America and all that. And politicians started distancing themselves from him and all that. And the man was forced to resign. It became a very humiliating effect and all that. If you had made a legislation with regards to that, in terms of child pornography and what, you probably would not have had the kind of impact that had on that challenge. So with that Electoral Act and all that, we shouldn't have legislated, because if you keep legislating on every small issues or small challenges and all that, the law becomes an encyclopedia that becomes very unwieldy. Some things are supposed to be done by precedent, precept, customs, and what have you. If we haven't tried these three means of selecting the flag bearer of the different political parties enough to now begin to legislate another, and then you ask yourself, was that law even, was that bill even passed into law because the legislator had the interest of the Nigerian people at heart? The answer is no. They have seen that the governors have become stumbling blocks to their aspirations and what have you. Each time you must also know one godfather before you can get whatever you want in the area of politics. The thing by having a direct primary is going to be a way to clip the wings of the godfather and then of the governors who dictate and who call the shot, who get the flags of the different political parties and what have you. That was why they made that law. It kind of enlightened a self-interest. Furthermore, you don't forget, we tried the direct primaries here in Lagos when Sanwo-Olu and Ambode locked horns with regards to the governorship of a Lagos state. Was it too successful than, or was it more, can we applaud it? Can we say it was better than even the delegate system that we used to have? A lot of acrimony. We had news that the party bigwigs made sure that only those who were going to vote for a particular political candidate had the identity card with which to vote or get the ballot paper before they could vote. We were also told that certain persons, once they know you are not going to vote for a particular political party, candidate, they made sure that the ballot paper with which you are going to vote never gets to you.
But I thought
during this last legislation,
people line up
when the party was supposed to be thrown open and all that. Do you know if certain persons go in there to the party walls and say, look, I want to be registered as a member of the political party? Once they knew your thought, your direction you are coming from, the tribe you are coming from, or that you are not likely to be amenable to their control and all that, they denied you the opportunity of registering or even being a member of their respective political party. That is to say, tell you that, look, this even direct system that they are talking about, given the mindset of the average Nigerian politician, and this do or die approach to getting political power, it's not going to work.
Let me take Judge's call from Ikeja. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Ifemi, and good morning to your guests.
Good morning.
Ifemi, let me start from INEC. You know, before INEC can perform to one's expectation, it depends on the tools with which they are working. The Electoral Act that was proposed basically by INEC has been thrown out because the presidency or the executive did not like it. But INEC knows what is best for the system. We are talking about youths or no youths in governance. That direct primary that INEC encouraged to be included in the Act will have been the tool for power shift. But those who are already holding power are not ready to allow it go. We are living in a country that seems to belong to governors. There is no way you can say the youth cannot make an impact. The youths are more daring in decision making. For example, if Femi Gbajabiamila was not a youth as a speaker, he would not have been able to drive that process through that brought the Electoral Act encouraging direct primaries.
How would this Mr.
Direct primaries, in my view, still remain better. Without direct primaries, you can never have a change in the caliber of people that we have as our administrators.
Thank you very much for your contribution. So sorry, we're out of time. We have to go now. I also understand that the phone line has really been not effective on the show today, but we'll do more of that tomorrow. Gentlemen, we're out of time, but we're going to return yet again to talk more about this. I just did mention that it was INEC's. I thought the last time I heard from INEC, they were saying that parties should decide what form of election they want to use to determine the candidates for election.
That's what democracy is. That's
Emeka Madunagu is a journalist who joined us on the program today. Thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Barrister Tunde Kolawole, it's always a pleasure to
Thanks
have you
for having me
on the program. Thank you everyone for being a part of it. We'll be back tomorrow with another exciting one. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Bye for now.